Yeah. So hello everyone. My name is Rodney LaLonde. I'm a senior computer science, physics, and mathematics major here at Saint Olaf.
And my name is Jonathan Featherstone. I'm a junior computer science and management studies, computer science major and management studies concentration here at Saint Olaf. And we're here with the HiPerCiC project under the advising of Professor Brown.
So what is HiPerCiC? HiPerCiC is not a moving Pokemon. Double check, it's not. But HiPerCiC stands for High Performance Computing in Context. And what that means is we build custom-made web applications to assist professors in their scholarly research. So how do we accomplish that? We accomplish that through this universal core that we call HiPerCore. And HiPerCore you can think of as both the foundation for a house and a warehouse full of all kinds of doors, windows, walls, and anything like that you can imagine. So to build an app, all you have to do is choose your furnishings and decorate.
So a little bit more about this core for you computer science types out there. We're running on a Django framework, which is built off of Python. The back end is run off of some SQL databases. We personally use Postgres. And our front end is HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, and Bootstrap. Bootstrap is awesome. It's been able to allow us to provide web apps that are both usable on your phone as well as your laptop and really any size screen. So they solved a lot of our issues with being portable and being able to use our things basically anywhere, which is awesome.
Being mobile friendly first.
Exactly. Yeah. So some app examples that we worked on over the past summer. First off, we have Alabama with Professor Fitzgerald. You might have seen this on the posters that were posted around campus. Rodney will get to that in a second. Secondly, we have the music history game with Professor Epstein. This has kind of been my primary project, I guess you could say, working with music history students. And third, we have Big Discovery with the Alumni Office. This was kind of a branching out of the HiPerCiC project because it wasn't necessarily teaching or research. It was actually more of assisting the Alumni Office on campus, which is kind of a new direction.
So first I'm going to get to talk to you guys about the Alabama app. So Alabama was cool because it was an existing app. It's actually been around for a long time. And it was built on, you could call it HiPerCore version 1.0. So my job was to, this summer, take the existing app that we had that was built on an old version of our core software and bring it up to the new version of our core software, HiPerCore 2.0. Fancy names.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was one of the main goals of the project. And I ended up in about 3 or 4 days completely rebuilding the database structure and everything. But the premise of the app is we take maps of Alabama from the 17 and 1800s, which we actually have maps from all the way to the 1600s pre-becoming a state to modern day. Every single county changed. Believe it or not, the South and Alabama is on top of that on their computer science stuff. Yeah. So good for them, and thanks for the state of Alabama for giving us that. And so the goal of the project was Professor Fitzgerald has all of this history that he's trying to research. Right? He's trying to figure out what's going on in Reconstruction era Alabama. And he wanted a way to look at these. His lens he was looking through was voting data. He wants to see how the socio and political climate is being affected through looking at voting records and voting data. Because it allows you to have numbers to look at. So what he wanted to do was some way of visualizing this. So we were able to create this beautiful visualization that's an interactive map. For those of you in computer science, we're using HiCharts to do our rendering. And we were able to display this county by county, and as you can see, when you highlight one of the counties, it tells you in both years what's going on. And we were able to do a lot of very cool things with this, like, for example, margin of victory, or racial concentrations, and who is voting based on that, as far as different things like even constitutional votes, yes or no on the state constitution being ratified. This actually became instrumental in the professor's research, and that's great, because that's the goal of HiPerCiC, right? We want to positively impact professors' research here. And through our visualization, the counties I actually have highlighted here are the key counties. You can see here in an area of deep red, in 1874, there's Blue County. And we were really surprised, Professor Fitzgerald was really surprised by this. We weren't really surprised. We didn't know any better. Yeah. He was very surprised by this. He goes, why is this county blue? This county is always red. It has a very high percentage of black population, which at the time voted historically almost exclusively Republican. So why is it blue? Well, it turns out through his historical research, now that he knows where to look, he goes, well, these counties in here, and specifically this county, have the highest influence of KKK in the area, the most lynchings and things like that. Well, then why in the next year was there record turnouts by blacks and by the Republican Party? Well, it turns out they built a railroad running right through there. And other things of that nature that he, with his historical resources, was able to, using now that he knows where to look, and decipher what's going on. So this was awesome for us to see our work impact the professor's research, and he actually is hopefully still going to publish based on these results. So really exciting stuff.
So next, we have the music history game with Professor Epstein. This is kind of a mix of both a teaching tool and later on, hopefully, a research tool. And what the goal here is, well, I mean, this was kind of a funny thing. Professor Epstein walks up to us. He's like, hey, I've got an idea for you guys. Music history, it just really stinks to learn, right? You have to sit down, you have to look at YouTube videos, and you have to memorize music and its attributes. When it was composed, who composed it, what genre it is, and so on, right? It gets really, really tiring. It gets boring. So he's like, well, what can we do? What can we do to make this more interactive, more fun? And we kind of collaborated. He's like, well, let's make a game. And that's basically what we've been doing. We've created an interactive kind of quiz game and study tool-esque thing here. So you can see we've got a soundbite on the left-hand side, as well as a multiple choice question that the student could answer. And the idea is it's quick feedback. So the student answers a question. It immediately says, correct, incorrect, not quite, so on and so forth. And they can go through levels, they can go through rounds, and make their way through kind of a fun game with feedback. Now, it's more than just a Quizlet tool, though. It also gives some really valuable statistics both to the student and to the professor. So everything that happens in this game is logged and recorded and put into a database that we can sift through and present both to the student, if applicable, as well as the professor. So the professor can go in on a day and say, well, I've just created a new level and most of my students have done it. Let's see how they're doing. And, ooh, this topic's been really struggling in the percentiles. And this topic, oh, they're doing awesome here. So what does that mean? And they can kind of go in and, whether it's statistical analysis or whether it's just, oh, well, we've been having some trouble with this. Let's do a little bit more of this topic. It can be as diverse as that. And finally, in the topic of HiPerCiC and modularity and things like that, we also built this app to be applicable in any field. Really, this could be expanded to art history, where you have to memorize a lot of things about visual pieces, or really anything that you need to quiz something on a media clip. It's really just a framework and a shell that you can fill in with whatever data you need to and go on your way.
Yeah, I will say this summer, John and I and Professor Brown went back and forth several times and restructured this database at least 5 or 6 times to keep it as modular and applicable to every field, every possible iteration. Mm-hmm. So I think it turned out great.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see where it goes.
Last one is, as John mentioned, this branching out project. Normally everything we do is with a professor on campus, right? We're assisting in scholarly research. Well, this was an exception. We're working with the alumni office and alumni hall doing an outreach program. So they came to us with this idea and said, we're starting this program over the summer where students are going to be interviewing alumni in the Twin Cities area. And we need a way for them to be able to arrange these interviews, to track the alumni's responses, to fill out reimbursements and get reimbursed, as well as a way to follow up with the alumni afterwards for questions the student couldn't answer. And there's a lot of data tracking and a lot of stuff that would have by paper been a real headache to keep track of. Because even just the initial was 50 interviews per interviewer. So this outreach and connections with alumni, so they needed to be able to handle all of these things. And we built, as you can see on the left here, from my left, your right, it made it very easy. We have an interactive map for them to do the interview arrangements. We have interview questions. They can keep track of their results there. And actually, this is being researched right now for statistical analysis on the answers that the students put in by a jury team here.
So how do we develop these apps and how do we support them? Well, we've been talking a while here now about what we've done over the summer research. So that's a big chunk of what happens for HiPerCiC. But also this leads into the next two things here, student work and a dedicated course. So student work can happen both in the summer and during the school year. And that's just someone stepping on and doing some work on top of their courses or on top of their normal summer load, as well as the dedicated course. And this is what we'll get to in a second. This actually, we're in this course this fall. And this is a course that is interdisciplinary teams working on projects that are, of course, interdisciplinary, solving problems for professors, but it's also in an academic context. So learning new technologies and presenting on those technologies.
So as John was saying, this is a very interdisciplinary course. We have 6 projects in the digital humanities domains. So they're very interdisciplinary teams. Students of computer science background and also whatever the domain field would be, whether that's art or history or anything like that. The computer science students only have 3 weeks of training to learn all of our frameworks, to learn Django, to learn SQL, databasing, Python, all of it. Most of the computer science students come from very wide backgrounds. So it's an interesting challenge to get training materials for them to learn all this stuff in such a short period of time. And it's a very collaborative environment. The teams all work very much interdisciplinary with each other.
So we've got a lot of projects that we're going through. I don't know if we're going to have time to get through them all here quick, but if any of these seem interesting to you, feel free to come talk to us. We've got everything from archaeology to computational linguistics to displaying cup galleries and digital museums. I don't know if you want to add anything here.
Nope, that's good. When we're presenting this in Chicago this weekend, we're going to have a poster that's going to cover all this stuff in a separate section. So
yeah.
Sorry we don't get to cover it here with you guys today.
Just for a time thing, but yeah, do feel free to come talk to us about any of these. They're all really great projects. And last, really quick, so HiPerCiC in general, we start with an initial idea, we get an early demo quick, frequent short interactions reaching a version 1.0. And that's our mantra, and that's what we've been going with, and it's been very successful so far, so we're excited to see where it goes. And
thank you to Saint Olaf College and the Ballot Foundation for providing the resources for performing this research in the digital humanities on the Hill Grant. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been a great time. Thank you, guys.